Hello and welcome to the 38th episode of the Real List podcast, a podcast about our real list. I'm your host, Ellis.
And I'm your host, Gloria.
And today we have a selection from...
Me. This is The French Dispatch, directed by Wes Anderson.
The one and only.
This came out last year, actually. Directed by Wes Anderson, screenplay by Wes Anderson, story done by Wes Anderson, Roman Coppola. Coppola, Hugo Guinness, and Jason Schwartzman.
I see your Schwartz is as big as mine.
This was also produced by Wes Anderson, Stephen Rails, and Jeremy Dawson. Starring Owen Wilson.
You don't need to go down this list. This is a really long list of people.
Starring Owen Wilson, Tilda Swinton, Henry Winkler.
You're just picking out names.
Timothy Chalamet, Jeffrey Wright, Rupert Friend, Bill Murray, and a whole bunch of other people, and Willem Dafoe.
And Bill Murray.
I already said Bill Murray.
I know, but, it's Bill Murray.
And this movie is basically based out of 1975 France, a paper company called the French Dispatch, and it goes through...
Well, it's a magazine.
And it goes through the different stories throughout the magazine because the editor dies in the beginning, and they're like going throughout the steps, I guess.
Yeah, they're going through the articles that are to be posted in the final edition of the magazine alongside his obituary.
Yeah.
Which is a really neat concept.
This movie is just all over, not all over the place, but it is. I don't think that's wrong. I love the way that they use the camera angles and the shots of this movie. I love the designs. I love everything about this movie.
Oh yeah, that's very much Wes Anderson's style. And the thing that I want to say, the first thing I want to say about this movie, aside from the fact that it is a lot of boobs for a Wes Anderson movie, is that this might not be the best Wes Anderson movie, but is quite possibly the most Wes Anderson movie.
Oh yeah, you can definitely tell this is Wes Anderson's baby. This is everything Wes Anderson had to give into a movie.
Mm-hmm. This is it's four. I mean, it's 4.5 different stories. There's the larger story of the closing of the magazine and the death of Bill Murray's character.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, that is wrapped around the 3 smaller stories in the magazine. So there's one on what are they in order? There's
the prison
one, the artist. What was that?
The artist called. Well, they had the cycling reporter first.
Well, yeah, I was gonna get to that because that's more like just an introductory piece. It's not a full story, but yeah, they do have that with Owen Wilson.
Yep,
that's the cycling reporter.
Then they have the concrete masterpiece, revisions to a manifesto, and the private dining room of a police commissioner. And then they have the obituary.
Yeah, which the concrete masterpiece is the art one that you mentioned as sort of the starter, and it is probably the most memorable one. I don't know. It is really tough to rank these stories because I feel like you can focus on any of the 3 and have a whole discussion on that alone.
Oh yeah. Do you wanna go piece by piece, story by story, or do you just want to just go with what you want to go with? You want to talk about each separate story?
I don't really know if I want to break it down that much, but I do want to say that a lot of this movie is shot in black and white.
Yes, I literally forgot from the first time we saw this together that it was shot in all black and white.
I forgot it was black and white at multiple times through watching this movie.
I love where you pan from black and white, and then it just gives you that pop of color, and then it goes back to black and white, and then you're like, oh, okay.
Yeah, there's a moment of color, and the moments of color are very well done and very
vibrant,
well-timed.
Very vibrant,
also true.
Very well timed. You're right.
Well, do you know how they were in the studio for the 3rd story? They were in the television studio, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's another thing that Wes Anderson likes to do. It's a story within a story.
The 3rd story was the.
Oh well, sorry, I'm not counting the cycling reporter as a story.
No,
the private dining room of the police commissioner. You know how it's him reciting the article. It is a story within a story because he's
reciting the article.
He's on TV with the broadcaster dude, and he's reading off from memory the whole article that he wrote. that ended up in this final edition, which in and of itself is just a wait, hold on. It's like Grand Budapest, which we will do an episode on at some point.
Definitely will.
That's either my first or second favorite movie, depending on the day. And it is a story, like the greater overarching story of the movie, and then the story of the interview, and then inside that the story of the actual kidnapping of the police commissioner's son, and them sending in the cook to rescue him, which is hilarious. What did I say? This one had the best twist. That one had the best twist.
Yes, it did.
And I didn't elaborate on what I meant by that.
No, you didn't, because you wanted to save everything for the podcast.
Do you have a guess as to what I meant?
No.
No. The twist that I'm thinking of, and the part that I like, maybe not the most in that story, but that I like a lot, is the chef saying how the taste of the poison was something unlike anything he'd ever tasted. Like, very few people get to taste that taste and live. And that is such a unique, like, chef realization to have. He's been a foodie his whole life. He's tried all the different tastes, like, ever, because he's this expert chef.
Okay,
finally he's having one that he's never had before.
Yeah, okay.
He had his Remy moment.
I also love the private dining room with the police commissioner, where they're doing the car scene chase.
Oh, yeah.
Where it's not like it's a cartoon. It's like a comic strip.
Yeah, it's animated. Just like, okay, we're going to have an animated segment now. That might also be the longest section of color in the entire film.
You're right.
Because that animated section is in color. Although some of the sequences in at the beginning and end.
Yes, a majority of the sequences in the beginning were in color.
Yeah, that's right. The cyclist one.
The cyclist wasn't.
Owen Wilson's part. Well,
the opening scene where the guy's bringing all the drinks up to the French Dispatch itself.
Yeah.
And that's in color.
You know what I didn't realize on first watching is that is the back side of the building that we see the front side of, like, immediately. I didn't realize they were the same building. I don't know why I didn't. It just never clicked to me. It's worth mentioning, we say, watching this the second time, we saw this in the auditorium at Brown University.
Yes.
In an early screening that was put on by their, like, cinema club or whatever. It just my mom happened to get tickets for it and invited us to come along, which was awesome. I mean, she knows I love Wes Anderson.
And we got a free tote bag out of it.
We did get a really nice tote bag out of it, that's right.
We got a free tote bag out of it that I haven't seen since we got it.
It's in the back of your car. It's in your trunk.
It's in my trunk?
It's in your trunk. I'm pretty sure it's with all the other tote bags. If not, it's just, like, probably in the basement or the garage and full of something. Or my mom has it.
She has her own.
Yeah, well, that might be why I think she has it. Have you ever seen them in the same place together? No. Who knows? They might be the same bag. It's like Superman and that mild-mannered reporter. What's his name? Anyway, I wanted to go back to the interview scene.
What interview scene?
The interview scene in the private dining room of the police commissioner.
Okay.
Like, the TV portion. The part that's actually in color.
Yes.
Which is interesting because it's in color, but it's probably in universe being filmed and broadcasted in black and white. And
you're not wrong.
The interesting thing is that room is very flashy in terms of its color.
Oh yeah, the floor, the walls, the chairs.
Because of how that color will translate onto black and white film and translate into black and white broadcasting. I saw the other day on a Reddit post the inside of the Addams Family house in color.
It was pink.
Yeah, it's gaudy and crazy, and I saw like a makeup thing where this girl did her face up like for black and white, and you picture her face in color. She's got like blue under her eyes and pink on her cheeks and green on her forehead and stuff like that.
Yeah, because it will show up differently in black and white,
which is super cool, and I'm not sure I ever totally knew. Going into this, I mean, like I've mentioned, the photography bloodline sort of made it 2 generations and didn't quite make it to me. But I just wanted to point that out because that's something I learned the other day, and then we watched this movie again, and I went, oh, look at that. Like, I can apply the knowledge, the useless knowledge I gained on the internet.
I also love the bits of color that they popped in there, like with the kidnapping scene where he's like, "Oh, I bet your eyes are blue."
Oh yeah, yeah, that's a really neat
and then
splash
she
of
looks
color.
to the slits of the door, and then you see her eyes.
Mm-hmm. And they have the splashes of color in the Concrete Masterpiece.
Yes.
Every time they show the art and Simone, which is fantastic.
Sometimes.
Well, every time they show them together, or every time they just show the art. Well, for the most part, yeah.
For the most part, yeah, they show the color.
It's for impact, and I think using color like that for impact is
a great touch. I think it's actually really great because you show the definition, you show the detail and the definition and the depth of the color, what color provides to such a black and white world.
It's like putting a highlighter on a scene.
Yes.
And the thing that makes like this stand out in this movie is because most movies are in full color, you know? And the thing that's amazing to me is that, like I said, I forgot this was in black and white at multiple points throughout the film. It would switch to color, and then it would switch back, and I would go, oh yeah, right, everything else has been in black and white. That's right. Okay, yeah, let me get used to that again. But you watch it for, like, you know, a couple of minutes, and your brain blocks it out. It's not, like, an issue anymore. It's not something that you recognize anymore. It's like, it's like when you are suddenly manually breathing, because someone says, oh, now you're manually breathing. And you have to pay attention to that for like 30 seconds until you get distracted by something, and then you just go back to normal. Because your brain just goes on autopilot, and it doesn't care about the fact that you were thinking about that. It doesn't care about the fact that, oh, this movie's in black and white. You're just engrossed in the film. If you keep thinking about the fact that the movie's in black and white, you're not enjoying the movie. Like, you are distracted. Like, and I'm not saying that's your fault. I'm saying that if you keep noticing the fact that it's in black and white and it is something that's sort of at the forefront of your mind the whole time, the movie isn't drawing you in for whatever reason. Like, you shouldn't be thinking about that. I
wanted to talk about the Concrete Masterpiece after you finish your thought.
Go right ahead, actually. I would probably just keep rambling.
I wanted to bring up the scene where, what's his name? The guy who is interested in the art. Goes to meet I forget names.
There's a lot. Adrian Brody goes to meet the painter.
Yeah. He goes to meet the painter, and the scene where the camera's sitting in the cell block, where it's like in like the window where you can look in at the prisoners.
Yeah, it's from Simone's point of view.
From Simone's point of view, just looking in on them, and it's just like, I brought it up to you last night. I was like, it's just like it's like you're looking at them in a smaller angle. It's like they're sitting in a different room in this little box. That's what it looked like to me. It looked like they were sitting in a little box just having a conversation.
Yeah, and I think that's a great way to portray that they are, in fact, sitting in a little box having a conversation, because they're in a jail cell.
Yeah.
And yeah, it also gives a moment of, like, Simone's point of view, because isn't that the shot where they both look at her to, like, is this price okay? God, that one is brutal. I mean, two of these stories are just brutal. The Concrete Masterpiece and the Revisions to a Manifesto. I mean, the Revisions to a Manifesto ends with the main character falling.
Zeffirelli dying.
Yeah, Zeffirelli falling to his death off the radio mast.
Yeah.
Which is like a heartbreak in and of itself. And it's a heartbreak at the end, which is, that's one way to do it.
They bring it up. They bring it back up at the end, right?
What do you mean at the end?
Don't they bring it back up at the end of the movie? About Zeffirelli?
Do they? Maybe they do. I don't recall. But the other one, Concrete Masterpiece, just the when they're laying together, right? And she's just like, he tries to ask her to marry her.
Yeah, and she's like, I'm not marrying you.
And she says, I'm not in love with you. I don't love you.
This is just for fun.
Yeah.
This is just funsies.
Well, she doesn't say that, but...
No, she doesn't say that, but...
but just that like brutality, and also I love how it flips on its head the typical like, I'm in love with you. Are you sure? You know, how do you know it's so quickly into our relationship? How do you know you're in love with me? And they're having the same conversation, except she's saying, I don't love you. How do you know? Because I don't. But it's so fast. How do you know already?
And then he just forgets about it, and he decides to start painting everything in the prison.
Oh, he clearly does not forget about it.
No, he doesn't forget about it, but he tries to kill himself multiple times.
Yep.
He put himself in the electric chair.
Yeah.
And then Simone gave him a reality check by flipping the switch really quick and then turning it back off.
Yeah.
And then she was like, "Oh, I can turn it back on if you want."
Yeah.
And he
jumps out of the electric chair.
And then when they went to come show all the artwork that was painted on the concrete wall, he stabbed himself.
Yeah, he stabbed himself in the leg. Yeah, this lock the door.
Lock the door. The prison. Oh my god, that
the
scene.
Prisoner's busting through the window or
the
down the wall. The
prisoners want the bribe as well.
Yeah, I didn't bring another, million francs in small bills. I love the bribe counter during that whole sequence. I was sitting there wondering, like, how do they get that number? I'm sure Wes Anderson was just like, I don't know, make it 11,000. Just like,
just make it as high as possible.
Yeah, just increase it by 10 times. It's such a... Oh, that's another story within a story.
What?
Like, that whole section... I mean,
when he gets out of jail and he goes to his uncle's?
No. Because the concrete masterpiece is being told by Tilda Swinton...
Oh, to
the audience. And,
oh God, that's me.
Oh yeah, and she has the slide. The slide of her nude in one of Simone's poses. Because she was lovers with the painter after the fact, after he was released from prison for defending everyone when the prisoners broke in.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, which is something that I didn't notice the first time. I was just like, slide of Tilda Swinton naked. But even, it was at the end of that segment when they were moving on to revisions to a manifesto. I was just like, and she's like, oh, don't judge me. We were lovers, when they're going through the account of like all that she's spent while trying to write this piece, and going back to the seaside resort where they had previously stayed, and she's offhandedly remarks that they were lovers, and I was just like, oh, that's why she was in that pose, like.
She was getting a picture taken. She was getting her picture painted.
I love Wes Anderson movies, man.
I love how in the revisions to a manifesto, how Zeffirelli had sex with what's her name?
The teacher or the journalist.
Yeah, the journalist.
Yeah.
And he was like, "Don't laugh at me. Don't make fun of my muscles."
What was it? I'm embarrassed about my new muscle, or I'm self-conscious about my new muscles.
Yeah, I'm self-conscious about my new muscles.
And then, no, I'm a virgin. So am I, except for Mrs. Crimmins. I knew it, or whatever she says. Like, I thought so, or something like that.
And then Zeffirelli falls in love with, I think her name was Juliet.
Yeah.
And then he dies. Like, that's so sad. I love
when you date someone named Juliet.
Oh, excuse me.
Nice. That was a great. Glad to have that in the middle of a poignant moment.
Sorry.
The Romeo and Juliet comparison in this film, which is definitely not intentional, and I'm just English teaching the hell out of this.
I find it also funny how they're playing chess with the mayor and how that whole thing is set up. I love how the whole thing is set up like you're playing chess with the mayor.
Yeah, for like to end this conflict, which also I love the fact that it just isn't explained at all. It's just
it's not.
It's just like, oh, now we're playing chess with, like, the protests are going on, and you're playing chess with the mayor at a distance.
How about the kid that committed suicide in army camp?
Oh my god.
Just jumped out the window. He was like, I don't want to live my life like this. I want to be a protester.
Yep.
He puts his glasses down on the bed, opens the window, and just
jumps out from the 5th floor.
That was sad, but it was like also like What?
It was just a moment where you go, did that really just happen? Did I just watch a kid jump out a window? Like,
but the way they portrayed that scene was they were on a stage.
Yeah, it was a play that was based around the events of
Zeffirelli's death.
No, not Zeffirelli's death. The fella Zeffirelli's friend who went into the army. I think it might have been the greater picture of Zeffirelli's death, but I
think that's what the play was about.
I don't. Maybe it was, maybe it wasn't. I can't really tell. But the only part that we see is this 3-minute segment of Zeffirelli's friend in the army, which is another just bizarre aside. And I understand that is stepping away from the sort of present tense of the storytelling, so that they can tell a really dark moment in a slightly more lighthearted way.
I guess so. I don't know.
I mean, you gotta put your filmmaker cap on and think about that. I guess it's just how else would you do that? Mostly because you don't really want to change the perspective to Zeffirelli's friend for a little while, because it would sort of break the flow of the story, I think. But yeah, just to not have that introducing a new setting in a serious and complete manner, introducing a new character only to kill him. It's just
this is what happened, when it happened, how it happened.
Yeah, exactly. It is the movie sitting you down and telling you a story of something that happened in the movie. Which is just these are things that I'm pretty sure only Wes Anderson could pull off and make work. This is the Most Wes Anderson Movie. It just decides to storytell from 6 or 7 different perspectives, probably more than that, maybe even 10 throughout the course of the movie. A total of 4 different stories, 4.5 different stories that don't have anything to do with one another aside from them being encapsulated in each other. If I'm honest, the one thing that I won't even call it missing. I can't even say that this movie is missing, because it's not worse without it, is that these stories legitimately have nothing to do with one another.
No, they don't. They're just 3 stories in a magazine.
Yep.
They don't have 3 final stories in a magazine that's going out of business.
They don't have any of the same characters. They don't have any of the same premises or dates or even locations, really.
I mean, the only thing the stories have in common is that all the people reporting the stories work for the French Dispatch.
And they all centered around the town of Ennui. So, yeah. It's... If you can term an Edgar Wright movie, one of the Cornetto movies, as the most interconnected movie where everything comes back around, this is the most disconnected movie I think I've ever watched. That's still been a 9 out of 10 movie. It's a really good film.
It I love, like I said, from the storytelling, from the scenery, from just the all around movie. It's a great movie. I would recommend this movie to anybody, honestly. In my opinion, I would recommend this movie to anybody.
Yeah, you just have to preface it with hey, it's a Wes Anderson movie. It might be a little bit weird. Just bear with it. Just take it as it comes.
Wes Anderson has such a style of movie. I don't know really what to call it.
It's Wes Anderson.
I mean, he has such a way with
what are you doing?
With producing different forms of detail in his movies, and it's just when the opening scene when it's on the press, when all the newspapers are going back and forth in between the press with the printing machines.
Yep.
The depth in the walls, in the machines, you can just see every finite detail. It's just amazing.
You know what the machinery, the bits of watching the presses go, reminded me of?
What?
The machinery in Edward Scissorhands
in
the lab. Just a little bit. Just the fact that it was just sort of here's a bunch of machinery on the walls. It doesn't necessarily make sense, but, it makes magazines. It was, it's definitely not Tim Burton-esque, but it was just here's a bunch of machinery. Enjoy. Um, and then the presses have stopped at the end of the movie.
Mm-hmm.
And man, what else can I say about this? We have not. At least we've touched on just about everything, and I love this freaking movie.
I also wanna point out in the end how at the end of each story, freaking they'll come back to the French Dispatch, and they'll have Bill Murray's character read their stories.
Oh yeah, and like critique the bits. Mm-hmm. Yeah, right. Because that was the genuinely the best part of the private dining room of the police commissioner is the part that he left out of the story. Mm-hmm. that Murray's character said, "Well, don't cut it. Add it back in. Don't cut it." And I really like that.
No crying in my office.
Yeah, and just the character that he plays and the eclectic bunch of reporters that work at the French Dispatch, and oh man,
I want to talk about the scene where, like, the final scene where everybody's in his office, they're planning to write his obituary, mm-hmm. and then the waiter comes in with a birthday cake
because it's his birthday,
and then he tries to light the cake, and then Miss Kremitz is like, "He's dead. Don't light the candles. Yeah. What are you doing?"
And Owen Wilson is like, "I'll take a piece."
I'll take a piece. We'll have a piece of that birthday cake once we're done recording.
Yeah. This movie did make $46 million on a $25 million budget. Which isn't like amazing, but it did double its money pretty much, and that's not bad for a movie that came out of the middle of COVID.
This is very true. This is very, very true.
This thing did not hit like theaters,
No, but I enjoyed it. You enjoyed it. That's all that really matters, isn't it?
Yeah, and Wes Anderson movies may not be always for the broadest audience. There is certain sort of style that sometimes it's difficult to wrap your head around, and sometimes it's difficult to like enjoy. Mm-hmm. I've talked on this podcast about my experiences with The Life Aquatic before, because sometimes these movies are funny, but not in a way that makes you laugh. Mm-hmm. It just gives you sort of like a funny feeling of like, well, this is what a situation, what a story, And he tells these stories which are both completely absurd and at the same time, very, very real feeling. You feel for the people in them.
Yeah,
you feel for the situations. You feel for, just everything. And
when we first saw this movie and we were on the private dining room bit and they made the chef eat the food, I was like, oh man, he just poisoned himself, didn't he?
Yeah.
Do you want to jump into star ratings? I mean, we already rated this movie before we even started this podcast.
Well, because this is one of the first movies that we've reviewed on the show. I think it might be the first movie that we've reviewed on the show.
That we've already rated?
That we already reviewed and rated. Because the list of movies and our watching them dates back before we started this podcast. We started this podcast because we weren't watching enough movies, and we needed to get through this list of 150 movies at a faster rate than like once a season.
Yeah.
And we needed to make the list smaller. We needed to watch movies faster than we put them on the list.
And we still keep adding movies.
I mean, we put, what did we put on the list recently? There was one that I actually wanted to put on that I forgot, but
The Incredibles was your ad.
I put The Incredibles on there. I put Mystery Men on there. We put on Sweeney Todd because we didn't realize it wasn't there.
The Minions, Rise of Gru.
Yeah, Minions. And
Monsters vs. Aliens.
You can look at all these, and it's like, these are the ones we've added since, like, Encanto came out. And we watched Encanto and, Ghostbusters Afterlife down here, and there's still another, we've added 20 movies to this list since Ghostbusters Afterlife came out.
We're terrible.
We're not, and we have watched 3 of them, we've watched 4 of them, including Ghostbusters. It's not good.
We've also seen the Steven Universe movie.
We have. I know you wanted that one back on here, but Yeah, so we already have star ratings on here, and I'm going to keep mine the same.
I'm going to keep mine the same as well. I'm not going to change it.
No, I'm increasing mine. My bad. I thought they were backwards.
I'm not going to change mine. I think 4.5 stars is good enough for this movie.
Yeah.
You know, it's the right amount of good movie.
It's a damn good movie. It is, again, it's not Wes Anderson's best work, in my opinion, but it is extremely him. It's his love letter to his own style, and I think that's awesome because not only did he do that and he made the movie that clearly he wanted to make, it also came out really good.
It did. It did.
You can make a movie with a certain style, and it can be, nails onto that style exactly, but it's not good.
Yeah, it could be a great art style, but the movie could be absolute crap.
Yeah, and
what are we watching next? Do you know?
Well, I just wanted to say I did increase mine. I wrote 4 originally, and I'm putting 4.5 now.
Okay.
I really like this movie. This is in my top 3 of Wes Anderson movies.
I think seeing it the second time really put it over the edge.
Yeah, I agree. It's this, Grand Budapest, and the other one.
Fantastic Mr. Fox?
No, I liked Fantastic Mr. Fox, but it's not in my top 3. It's the Camp Counselor.
Oh, Moonrise Kingdom.
Thank you. I could not come up with the name. I love that movie so much. We've done that one in an episode, haven't we?
No, we haven't.
Oh, we haven't. We have watched it though. We have watched it and rated it.
Yeah, we watched it for Valentine's last year.
Oh yeah. Okay. What the hell are we watching next? Well, actually, if we don't manage to squeeze in a movie tomorrow night, the next thing we review will be Beetlejuice the musical.
Are we gonna compare it to the movie?
Maybe. But if to do that, we're gonna have to watch the movie tomorrow night. I'd rather watch a different movie from this list instead.
We gotta watch a Bronx Tale because my mom's birthday.
When's your mom's birthday?
Tomorrow.
Okay, well we're watching a Bronx Tale tomorrow, or tonight. It's only 8 o'clock.
Yeah, we can watch it tonight. I think it's on HBO Max.
I need to do a special order for somebody, but other than that, absolutely, let's watch a Bronx Tale and review it tomorrow, and then we'll have that out on time while we are away.
Yeah.
So you probably will not be receiving a review on Beetlejuice the musical. Maybe you'll get it as like a bonus episode live stream while we're on the train home from New Orleans.
I think we should do that. I think that's nice.
Yeah, it'll be episode 39 and a half.
Yeah.
Anyway, no crying in my office.
Bye, guys.